So hello, everybody. This is Paul Defendini, Superintendent of the Farmingdale Schools, being joined today by Mr. Glenn Zakian, Dr. Joan Ripley, Dr. Jen Olson, Dr. Bill Brennan, and Mr. Mike Motisi. Again, all of us have been key players in the development of our district's reopening plan for the 2020-21 school year. We'll be taking part in this presentation at different points. Again, the thought is at this point to get back to the parents with as much detailed information as we can. Thank you very much to the parents who submitted upwards of 200 questions. We've spent the last week synthesizing those 200 questions into something that's manageable for us to respond to, and again, doesn't provide or doesn't waste parents' time by us repeating the same questions over and over, because obviously, as you would imagine, many parents have the same kinds of questions. So, the purpose of today is to get back to, parents' questions, and the best way to do that, obviously, is to bring the whole team together to make sure that we have, really detailed answers to all of those questions. So, let's get started. So our reopening plan goals were really only twofold, and they are in the right order. The first and most important thing that we're looking to put into place, for the 2020-21 school year is a plan that provides, the safest type environment as we can for everybody that enters our building. Safety is obviously paramount under the current conditions in which we're operating. So, safety obviously leads the charge as far as our reopening plan goals. Second would be, the delivery of a quality education at all grade levels, focusing on issues of equity, across all of the different requirements that we have, here in the schools. So again, our two goals are sort of laid out very clearly. We had a number of guiding principles that helped us to build our plan. Again, as I mentioned before, health, safety, and well-being of our students and staff is obviously leading the charge for us. Educational equity comes in a couple of different ways. Access to technology. We know that not every student has access to Wi-Fi. Not every student has a device, so we had to make sure that our plan included the ability to have those kinds of things in place. Social wellness, social emotional wellness, and health supports, which Dr. Ripley will be talking to you about, a multi-tiered approach to provide mental health and wellness services. All the support systems, again, that need to be put into place for our special populations. Another key principle of our plan was working collaboratively with all the different stakeholders, parents, teachers, administrators, our community members, which we've done to this point, and we will continue to do with fidelity over the course of the next few weeks, probably with greater levels of intensity, to make sure that parents have all the information that they need, and to make sure that teachers and administrators are brought to the forefront in order to be able to help us make decisions about the academic environment. Clear communication has been important for us to this point. We've tried to be really thoughtful not to waste people's time, by providing information that might be irrelevant or unnecessary, but when information that is relevant and necessary becomes available, to get that out into parents' hands in the most concise way that we possibly can. So again, we worked hard to do that, and again, there's a lot more coming. We also are acknowledging the fact that this is not a one-time event. We don't believe at any point in time that we're going to have this to a point where there's no other changes or modifications that need to be made. This is a learning opportunity for us all. We know that we're going to get better as time goes on, and we learn about things that are working and not working. So that's been a big part of our process is to appreciate the fact that this is a learning environment and we need to learn. And the last piece is where we can try to strengthen systems. So if there's an opportunity for us to grow as an educational system and actually get better under this environment, we would love for that, obviously, to be a part of what's going on right now for the upcoming school year. We had committees, obviously, that started this work: health and safety, special ed, mental health, transportation, instruction, building protocols, and communication were the committees that were established in order to be able to, best meet the variety of needs that we have, here in the district, and to make sure that we heard from the entities that really need to provide some insight to the district. And the last, this next slide is really talking about the, where we are as a state. Our region right now is in phase 4. The infection rate is below 5%. We heard from the governor earlier this afternoon in that we are going to be planning to open school this coming September. We have been provided at this point in time the all clear from the governor to open school. So we're going to be talking about that as well as part of this presentation. It is important to note that in this presentation, though, some of the things that were discussed this morning by the governor are going to require, additional conversation with the district and district staff to understand exactly what it is the governor was referring to in some of his comments to make sure that we are including all of those items in our plan. We have a timeline that we're looking to hold to. Obviously, we submitted our plan to you, the community, and to the state on July 31st. We asked parents to provide questions to us by August 5th. Thank you again for those questions. That is the frame for this presentation. This team is going to be responding to those parent questions this afternoon. It'll be available continuously on the district's website. We're asking that the parents respond to us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the presentation. But on Monday, you're going to be receiving a form, district correspondence, for you to respond to, indicating whether or not you're choosing a remote learning environment for September 2020. Parents have until August 14th to get that done. We are planning at this point in time for teachers to return to school, for faculty meetings and professional development on September 1st. This is a change to the calendar that you should please note. Originally, the plan was for students to arrive on the 3rd, meaning we were going to use the 1st and the 2nd for Superintendent's Conference Day, and then students were supposed to return originally on the 3rd. That is no longer the case. We will now have 4 days of professional development, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. That following weekend is Labor Day, which falls on September 8th. Students will return after Labor Day under the hybrid model plan. So it is that middle plan that we were talking about last week. Before I turn it over to Mr. Zakian to talk a little bit about the health and safety portion of our plan for our staff, for our visitors, and for our students, again, just making sure that everyone understands this has been sitting at the forefront of everything that we've done. Safety of the students and the staff has been the topic of conversation. Everything else has sat second to that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Zakian to take you through some of the information pertaining to this portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Defendini. We are, as Mr. Defendini explained, responding back to various questions submitted by the community. One of the first question lines was regarding screening or pre-testing of our students and faculty and staff. As of now, there is no plan to have all of those components tested for COVID-19 prior to the start of the school year. The district's expectation is that everyone will follow the CDC guidelines for appropriate precautionary behaviors and follow social distancing recommendations when in the public arena. The district and the individual schools will be sending information regarding COVID-19 related precautions and behavioral expectations to be followed at home and in school to all stakeholders in the coming weeks. Testing will be required for all students, faculty, and staff only in the event that symptoms are presented. At this time, the current CDC definition of these symptoms includes a fever of 100 degrees or above, fatigue, nausea or vomiting, headache, cough or sore throat, muscle or body aches, diarrhea, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, new loss of taste or smell, and repeated shaking and chills.
I just wanted to bring up, thank you, Mr. Zakian, that one of the things that was discussed today at the press conference for the governor that we need to talk a little bit more about is things pertaining to testing. That could be something that might change over the next couple of weeks. And again, we'll provide you with more information about any changes in our testing protocol procedures. But again, this was the protocol that we had in place. Again, there might be some modifications to the protocol over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we will keep you updated as to any of those changes.
As far as arrival to school, each building will be developing their own plan for incoming faculty and students and entry point access. They may be different than what is traditionally exhibited during a traditional school year. These plans will be also addressing students who arrive by bus, by parent drop-off and walkers, and these building plans will be shared with each specific school community by their building principal in the near future. As far as taking temperatures and arrival for staff, all faculty and staff entering one of our schools will be required to have their temperature taken by school personnel prior to admittance into the building. Staff will be required to also complete a daily screening questionnaire to determine a number of items, such as have they knowingly been in close or proximate contact in the past 14 days with anyone who has tested positive through a diagnostic COVID-19 test? Has anybody tested positive through a diagnostic test for COVID-19 in the past 14 days? Has anyone experienced any symptoms of COVID-19 such as was just described? And has anybody traveled internationally or to and from a state with a widespread community transmission of COVID-19 per the New York State Travel Advisory in the past 14 days? Admittance into the building will be denied, and the employee will be directed to return home with instructions on how to proceed if they answer yes to any of these questions. As far as visitors to our buildings, currently and until further notice, all visitors will not be admitted into our buildings. In the rare circumstances that requires the admittance of a visitor to the building, it will be permitted solely by the approval of the building principal, and that visitor will be required to complete the health screening questionnaire and have their temperature taken prior to admittance. Admittance into the building will be denied, and the visitor will be directed to leave school property if they present a temperature of 100 plus or answer yes to any of the aforementioned questions. As far as taking temperatures and arrival for our students, in accordance with the guidelines set forth by the New York State Education Department and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, temperature checks prior to boarding the school bus or at the bus stop location will not be performed as it is a safety concern. All students entering our schools will have their temperatures taken when they arrive at their school prior to admittance into the building. They will be instructed to maintain social distancing rules while waiting for the testing, and periodic completion of a screening questionnaire will also be required by our students. In the event that a student presents symptoms or a staff presents symptoms at home, we ask that you keep your child or the staff member remain at home. The symptoms of COVID overlap with other common childhood illnesses, and we ask that you consult with your child's pediatrician and let them make the determination as to if they should be tested for COVID-19. If your doctor does not choose to test the child, we require a note stating the actual diagnosis and the date they are permitted to return to school. If the student is tested, they will be required to stay home until the results are received. If the results are negative, the student may return to school once they are symptom-free and do not present a fever without the use of fever-reducing medication for 24 hours and have a doctor's note stating so. Our faculty and staff will be following these same guidelines. If they present at school, as I mentioned, all students will have their temperature taken upon arrival at school. If a student's temperature is 100 degrees or above, or feels ill or gets sick while in school, they will be sent directly to the school nurse for assessment. If they display any COVID-related symptoms, they'll be placed in an area isolated from others where they will remain. A parent will be called to pick up the child immediately. That parent will then be advised to have that child seen by their pediatrician and follow the protocols previously stated. The number of cases throughout the district will be monitored, and we will work with the Department of Health to determine if schools need to close. This same protocol will be followed by faculty and staff. If a student tests positive for COVID, their doctor will alert the Department of Health, and they will contact the school and begin to perform contact tracing. This positive test will initiate a 14-day quarantine mandate to all students and teachers that were in the same class or classes and possibly additional spaces such as the school bus or cafeteria as the student who tested positive for COVID-19 was in. All siblings of the infected student will need to quarantine as well. Lastly, if a parent tests positive, the student as well as all family members need to be quarantined for the time that the parent is symptomatic and for the 14 days after the parent is no longer symptomatic. Once again, this same protocol will be followed by all members of the faculty and staff. As a point of contact in our buildings, the school principal and the nurse's office will be the COVID-19 point of contact. All nurses in the district have been formally trained via Johns Hopkins Hospital, and they will be our contact tracing experts. Our nurses will work directly with the district physician and the Department of Health to initiate contact tracing protocols.
Health and safety and cleaning protocols. Safety and cleaning of the district facilities is of the utmost importance. We had received a number of questions regarding cleaning protocols. First question, one of the questions that we received was, what are the cleaning protocols for student desks? All classrooms and students' desks will be disinfected each night. Cleaning and disinfecting products will be provided for the interim cleaning throughout the day if needed. As a precaution, we are hiring additional part-time staff to assist with the daily cleaning throughout the buildings. This includes frequently touched surfaces and needs in the classrooms. Additional questions were related to the air quality and air ventilation of the buildings. A number of years ago, back in 2015, the district entered into an energy performance contract. During this contract, all of the district's univents were replaced and refurbished with filters to help filter in fresh air from the outside, as is required by New York State. The district used the closure period during COVID to make sure that all of our air handling units were working at 100% capacity. Additionally, univent filters are changed 3 times per year to ensure that fresh filtered air is circulating in the classrooms. Another question arose as to air circulation and how it could be improved in the hallways and in our buildings. All corridor and classroom doors will remain open as much as is safely possible in order to promote improved air circulation. Additionally, windows will be open to further promote the air circulation, weather permitting.
I just want to jump in, Mike, just to add some clarity to the first question, which might come up with regard to the filters. The filters that are built into our univent systems are designed to be able to pull out, different types of particles, most namely pollen, dirt and things of that sort. The filters that are built into our univents are not designed to scrub the air of, viruses and bacteria. Fresh air from the outside is intended to help support that kind of an environment. We are working right now to better understand, new systems that are becoming available on the market right now for consideration, but I don't want to overstep and make anyone believe that the systems that we have in place right now are built to filter, at that level. But again, it is something that the district is looking at and will continue to look at with the district's architects to see how we can improve the current condition here in our buildings.
The district has purchased a number of social distancing signs that will be placed throughout the building. These signs include one-way arrows to control the flow of student traffic, face masks required, reminders to wash your hands, 6 feet distance signs, and please stand here signs to ensure that students and staff are adhering to social distancing protocols. Questions were raised also regarding hand sanitizers and sanitization. Hand sanitizers will be provided in the classrooms and throughout the hallways should students and staff need.
And just to expand upon that, Mike, thank you. Other, PPE and other types of equipment, masks, different types of desk shields and things of the sort are also part of our package and have already been purchased in preparation for the start of school. Again, that has been a focus for us in order to realign a lot of our budgetary priorities to pick up as much PPE as possible to be ready for the variety of conditions that are going to be upon us when we open school in September.
The question was raised regarding clarifying who would be provided transportation. All students that were eligible for transportation will continue to receive transportation in the 2021 school year if they are physically attending schools. This would include all students that fit within the parameters established by the voters and the Board of Education, as well as McKinney-Vento students, foster students, and special education students. Question was also raised regarding how we will monitor and enforce mask wearing and social distancing on the buses. We have been working with our bus company to provide additional supervision on district buses. The availability of staffing has been noted as a concern by the bus company. In the absence of bus monitors, the district will be utilizing cameras on each of the buses to monitor student behavior to best ensure students are adhering to social distancing and wearing masks. Continuing with transportation, there was a question regarding how many students will be on a bus together. The district will adjust the routes to limit the number of students on a bus at one time so that no bus is ever at full capacity. We will be using staggered seating on the buses to manage the congestion on the bus. How will social distancing on a bus look? Everyone riding a bus will be required to wear a mask at all times if they are able to. Alternative accommodations will be made for students that cannot physically wear a mask. Siblings and those living in the same household will be required to sit together on a bus. Additionally, to promote airflow on the bus, windows and the top hatch will be open to promote airflow, weather permitting. Will there be adjustments to pick up and drop off times? Adjustments may be needed to arrival and dismissal times for walkers, drop-offs, and buses. Once the plans are finalized and we know who is attending school in the fall, the district will communicate this to the community. How often will cleaning occur on the bus? All buses will be deep cleaned after the AM and PM runs. Frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned in between bus routes.
It's very important that we address students' social and emotional needs as soon as we return to school. We're approaching this from a 3-level of care approach where all students K through 12 will be working with teachers, school counselors, social workers, and psychologists through mini lessons on mindfulness and managing anxiety. That will take place through morning meetings at the elementary level and an extended homeroom period at the secondary level. Our goal is for the first weeks of school to focus on building relationships with and among the students and really forming learning groups and partnerships of support. But we also understand that there are students and families who have faced trauma and anxiety during the pandemic. We have already begun conversations and training with our social workers and counselors to work with students and families. For those students that are facing extreme difficulties and are presenting with illnesses or psychological issues, we will be referring our psychologists to those students and also through support through a partnership with our Northwell Health psychiatrist who will be in the district once a week.
So as mentioned, we're offering a number of instructional options. I'm going to go through that again real quick. The 3 different models that we submitted to the state, the first model being an in-person model where all students from UPK through 12 will attend in person and follow a normal schedule or regular type schedule. Our hybrid model where our grades UPK through 7 will attend daily in cohorts with a push-in for specials where our secondary program grades 8 to 12 who aren't able to maintain cohorts, and cohorts are that breaking point where, if you're not capable of continuing to maintain a cohort model, There's a lot of recommendations in the state guidance that you really need to start to limit the number of kids within any given program to minimize the impact of a positive case. So again, grades 8 through 12 will be attending in person, but it'll be an every other day model, where one day they would be in school and the following day they would be able to connect with their classroom teacher, both synchronously and asynchronously from a remote standpoint, with an option for remote learning, which we spoke about earlier, where parents need to indicate to us next week what their decision is, whether or not it will be a remote option will be requested. And the third option that we had put before the state was, if schools are closed down for whatever the reason, based upon direction that we get from the state, based upon direction we get from the Department of Health, or based upon local decisions, based upon, us being designated as a hotspot, we would be able to enter into a full remote model, where we would be putting into place programs like Schoology, which we'll be talking a little bit more about later, Google Classroom, and it would be, a synchronous teaching environment that would happen on a daily basis. What's important right now is for you to understand the number 2, the hybrid model, is the model that has been indicated by the governor that will be going into place beginning in September. So we will be following our hybrid model based upon the current information that we have from the state.
The district did receive some questions from parents around what daily instruction would look like. Daily instruction will focus on our commitment to returning to a sense of normalcy through creating routine and developing class community. We will do that by structuring the day through Schoology and our Google Classroom, as well as providing students with the opportunity to work together, whether in person or remotely. Furthermore, we received many questions around teaching and monitoring students remotely. Teachers will be able to do this by taking attendance daily, providing synchronous and asynchronous activities for the students, as well as posting all assignments and classwork, as well as due dates in Schoology. We are committed to providing professional development to our teachers around Schoology and remote learning.
As we wrapped up last school year, we realized there were some opportunities to enhance the remote experience. Working with teachers, we came up with an approach to better streamline and provide a consistent experience for our students, our teachers, and our parents. And so often you've heard reference to Schoology. Schoology is a learning management system that we've been working hard to implement to ensure there's a consistent approach K through 12. Some of the questions that we have received are as follows. Why are we switching from Google Classroom to Schoology? And might that be a lot for kids to handle along with this new platform? One of the things that's important to recognize is that Schoology is not actually replacing Google, but that Google fully integrates into Schoology. And our goal with Schoology is to help ensure we can provide a consistent experience for every student, teacher, and parent K through 12. The next question that we had was, will Schoology only be for remote learning? And the answer is no. We'll be using Schoology in the class experience and for remote as well. All students, teachers, and parents will have an account in Schoology. This will be the one-stop shop for assignments, rating, attendance, and communication. We'll be sharing a lot more information about that in the very near future. In terms of instruction on Schoology, one of the things that we have to do is get our parents into Schoology. And so since many of the Google functions become integrated into Schoology, what we're going to do is we're going to invite parents to join that site to get an account so that we can interact with you there. One of the things that we're going to do is make sure that your emails are enrolled and that there's training available for parents throughout the summer. Another question that we got was, will our teachers be teaching to students in class and students at home remotely at the same time? and that is true. There'll be a synchronous and an asynchronous experience, and that will be done through Schoology going forward. Questions came up related to Chromebooks and home Wi-Fi. Specifically, do kids bring them back and forth daily, or do they stay in school? The answer is yes. Students will need their Chromebooks in school and at home. Another question surfaced about Wi-Fi at home, and if families do not have Wi-Fi at home. As we did in the spring, we're going to do our absolute best to ensure that every family has access to reliable Wi-Fi. We encourage anybody that does not have that reliable coverage to contact their building administration right away, and they will be in touch with district office so that we can provide you with a solution.
One of the goals of our plan from the very beginning was to try to maximize in-person learning opportunities. We recognize the importance of obviously creating the safest environment, is our first priority, but shortly behind that was, maximizing in-person instructional time. There's very few out there that would contend that the remote learning environment was an acceptable replacement to in-person learning. So again, keeping to our promise to try to manage both of those the best way that we could. Again, children in grades K through 7 will be attending school every day, organized into cohorts. Schools, again, across the district are going to try to minimize the amount of movement. That is one of the key goals. Keep the students in place, keep the students contained within the cohort, including specials, including a variety of services that students might be receiving, as well as including lunch, providing lunch in the actual classroom, serving students lunch or bringing down lunch to each of our individual classrooms at the K-7 level. Brought it up before, that starts to break down when you get into 8th grade because of the design of our program. The ability to maintain cohorts becomes very difficult, and therefore our structure in grades 8 through 12 changes. Where scheduling, a couple of the questions were about how are we breaking up the kids. We are looking to break up the kids by alpha, last name, with some special considerations, most notably keeping siblings together. So if siblings happen to have different last names, we want to make sure that we're respectful and responsive to the families, trying to keep families together. There may be some special circumstances. We would ask, any special considerations to be brought to the building principal, but for the most part, we are hoping to keep our schedule aligned with alpha based upon last name.
For parents that would like to select the remote learning option, there will be a remote learning registration form that will be available on Monday, August 10th. The form must be submitted by Friday, August 14th. Remote students will be enrolled in classes with in-person peers and will follow their daily schedule as if they were in person. Remote instruction will be a combination of live, synchronous, and asynchronous every day. Students will be using Google Classroom through our Schoology platform, and tutorials will be available on our website. Just please keep in mind that if you choose the remote option, elementary students must stay remote for the length of the trimester. The trimester dates are listed on this slide, and it's very important to understand that if you choose the remote option, your child will be out of the classroom until November 24th for that first trimester. At the secondary level, middle and high school students must stay remote for the length of the semester. That first semester ends January 29th. It's very important that we develop strategies and all kinds of consistencies with the students' learning. So we would not be able to have a situation where students are in and out of school. They really do have to commit to a remote learning option.
The one addition that I'd just like to add, thank you, Dr. Ripley, is again, if at some point in time there's a growing concern by a parent or parents that they would like to move from an in-person model to a remote model, they can do that at any point during the year. But please understand, once a decision is made to go to the remote option, again, that same trimester or semester at the secondary level, we would require people to stay in that remote learning model until the end of the trimester or the end of the semester at the secondary level. So again, you can move from a live model to a remote model if concerns pick up during that time, because the potential for cases is certainly out there, and we understand and recognize that people might become concerned, but you can't go back the other way. If you've made a decision to go remote, we would expect that you stay in that remote model for the trimester or the semester.
Specifically, we will be welcoming back our UPK and 7th grade students every day. They will be organized in cohorts. They will be remaining in their classrooms during the day and having their special area teachers move through the classroom, rotate between the classrooms for each of the classes that they teach. In 5th and 7th grade, teachers aren't just content area teachers, and not only special area teachers, but the content area teachers will rotate as well. We will continue to use Schoology and Google Classroom as the daily platform for assignments and daily agenda. Traditional grading models will continue to take place. We will be administering reading and math assessments that align with the New York standards to identify learning gaps. We will ensure that our students that need academic interventions will be provided.
In grades 8 through 12, as Mr. Defendini mentioned, the students will be separated into 2 groups and attend every other day in person, or if chosen, remotely. The students will be a member of one of the 2 groups, as mentioned, formed alphabetically and with siblings on the same day. They will follow their regular schedule every day, and they'll be responsible to attend remotely. Attendance does count. We will help the students by working in groups through Google Classroom and other applications, whether the student is in person or remote, and we will provide those tutorials. Another question was asked about, will the teachers be ready? Yes, teachers will be taking attendance every day. They will set aside a portion of every lesson for some synchronous learning for the remote learners. They will be posting the assignments, the classroom work, and the due dates in Schoology. And we've planned extensive professional development that's already begun this summer and will continue well into September. There were some questions regarding secondary classes that meet on an A or B day schedule. We have planned out a schedule where we're using an AA-BB schedule. So for example, group 1 will come to school in person and it will be an A day. Group 2 will be remote, but they will also be attending that class remotely. The next day will still be an A day, with group 2 being in person and group 1 being remote. That will include courses such as physical education and other special area courses. It's really important to run this schedule so that all students have the advantage of having in-person instruction.
2 questions that came up UPK through 12th grade for a hybrid model is, what will class size look like? The district is working with our architects on the room studies for each of our buildings. The class sizes will be determined by the maximum amount of persons allowed in the room while practicing social distancing and using barriers and masks. A frequent question that was asked was, will the children still be able to have physical education, art, and music classes? And that answer is definitely. We are committed to providing all art learning opportunities for all our students.
Some parents ask questions regarding specific special education requirements and students. As mentioned, all students in special class will attend every day. That's K through 12. They will be required to wear masks if they are able, and a separate location will be provided for mask breaks throughout the school day. We are also ordering clear desk dividers that will be used in addition to the social distancing requirements in classrooms. Clear masks will also be provided to teachers and service providers so that students can use those visual cues that are so important to their learning. Students with hearing impairments will have sound amplification as noted on his or her IEP. Students that have a combination of special class, a 15-1, and also mainstream will receive a personal schedule. There were many questions around athletics, music program, and after-school clubs. Our fall sports are delayed by the New York State Association of Athletics until September 21st. There are alternate plans with 3 seasons scheduled beginning in January. If a registered student chooses remote learning and meets all of the immunization requirements and attends classes regularly online, the student may participate in school sports. As for the music programs, every effort will be made to facilitate music programs if the following criteria can be met: social distancing, appropriate sanitation practices, and 1 instrument per student, which we will be able to accomplish. We would be scheduling those classes in large spaces such as the auditorium, as well as creating smaller ensemble groups to ensure that social distancing can occur. Again, with after-school clubs, if a student chooses remote learning, there may be possibilities for after-school clubs. We will make a determination October 1st regarding that. Visitors and spectators at events. As Mr. Zakian mentioned, all buildings will be closed to visitors until further notice. But we will have some contractors and vendors on a limited basis. They will have to complete the same health screening required of all district employees, including having their temperatures taken. All field trips, large group events, and community use of school facilities are canceled until further notice, and our parent meetings will be hosted virtually until further notice. There were some questions regarding our before and after care that is provided by Farmingdale Care. Farmingdale Care is a private nonprofit corporation, and they have asked to please call them with specific questions. They are running before care beginning at 7:30 at Albany Avenue School, and they are providing a separate room for each elementary school at that building in order to maintain the cohorts and social distancing. Aftercare will be held at Salzman, Woodward Parkway, and Albany Avenue. Northside students will be bused to Albany Avenue, and they will remain in a separate classroom for Northside students. And masks must be worn to both before care and after care. If you're interested, please see our website for the link to the application. Applications must be filled out and submitted.
The last 2 slides here deal with a change to the calendar and then some next steps. As far as the change to a calendar goes, Superintendent's Conference Day, again, was originally scheduled for September 1st and 2nd, with students supposed to come to school on the 3rd and the 4th. Again, that has changed. We will now be using Tuesday, September 1st through Friday, September 4th to prepare for the eventual arrival of our students on the 8th. Again, thank you to our teachers who have been working so hard over the summer, getting ready for this new environment. We have more than 300 teachers at this point participating in all sorts of training: Google Classroom, student engagement, Schoology, Nearpod, Pear Deck, all sorts of different assessment tools. We're working as hard as we can right now in order to get ready for students, but we do know that those extra 2 days will be pivotal for us in being able to, fully prepare for, this entirely new environment that we're preparing for students. So again, students will not be arriving to school for the first day until September 8th. And again, please note that that is a change in our calendar. As far as some next steps, again, thank you for submitting the questions to us. Hopefully this presentation has been helpful in answering some of the low-lying questions that are out there. We've tried to do the best we can, synthesizing and summarizing some answers to create a reasonable response to what was hundreds of questions. But again, questions beget questions. We're expecting another host of questions, and we're asking our building principals to be following up with another Q&A next week, where you can ask more specific questions about how buildings are going to be responding to these kinds of new conditions. Again, you can imagine a school like Northside would respond very differently to the new entry procedures than would Farmingdale High School. So parents may very well likely have some questions pertaining to how are their children, going to be entering the building based upon the school that they're at. So, pay attention to the fact that there'll be a correspondence coming out for additional Q&A on the 10th. Again, has been mentioned multiple times. Dr. Ripley most recently spoke about the parents need to select a option with regard to remote learning. The window will be open beginning on the 10th. You will get an email from the district, as well as a parent link blast, including a text message that will provide an opportunity for parents to select the remote learning option. You will have until the 14th to fill that out. And again, as a reminder, you will be locked into that decision for either the first trimester at the elementary level or the semester at the secondary level. And also, we are preparing for open forums because we know that although this is helpful and a good next step, open dialogue is going to be an important part of our ability to be able to continue to communicate with you well. So town hall style meetings will be scheduled the week of August 17th to the 21st to again answer even more detailed questions that might be coming from our parents. I thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and hope everybody has a great weekend. And again, we'll be communicating with you frequently over the course of the next several weeks. So any questions that you have, again, you'll be getting a form from the building principal early next week. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Farmingdale.